Hello and welcome to Future You, the podcast brought to you by graduate careers experts Prospects. I'm your host, Emily Slade, and this episode is all about artificial intelligence. I chat to Chalmers and Paul Fergus from Liverpool John Moores University about their project, Conservation AI, where conservation meets artificial intelligence, and the MSc Artificial Intelligence course offered at LJMU.
So my name's Chalmers. I'm a reader at Liverpool John Moores University, and I teach on the Applied AI course with my colleague, Professor Paul Fergus. We also run a large conservation AI platform where we analyse real-world data and apply real-world techniques using artificial intelligence, and then we use that a lot in our MSc programme.
Okay, so yes, I'm Paul Fergus. I'm a Professor of Machine Learning at Liverpool John Moores University. So I've been here for about 20 years, did my PhD here, but more recently I co-founded Conservation AI with my colleague Carl, who's going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But yeah, so I basically teach mainly around deep learning, and my research is around deep learning applications.
So Conservation AI is a research project that's been in development at John Moores University. It's been sort of developed by myself and Paul and some other academics around the university. And what it does is it allows us to use artificial intelligence to analyse the vast quantities of data that are being generated from conservation practices. So that could be things like cameras being put out in the wild, acoustic sensors being put out in the wild. And what conservationists are really struggling with now with all these different sensors being put out into the environment is how you process this data in a timely manner. So it's been in development for around 6 years. We've sort of used in anger over the last sort of 18 months, and we've just come to around 20 million images that we've processed. And we've got ongoing projects over in North America, the Snow Leopard Trust in Asia. We were actually the very first organisation to detect a pangolin in real time using artificial intelligence. And it sort of works by people being able to upload all the historical data. So they put cameras out into the environment, and our AI analyzes all of that data and gives them a report at the end. Or more recently, we do a lot more real-time cameras. So these connect over 3 4G networks. We've got cameras distributed all over the planet. Some are used for animal, wildlife, and human conflicts. Some of it's for anti-poaching, and we were actually caught our very first poacher in Uganda the other year who was trying to poach a pangolin. So we always build sort of enterprise technologies around conservation AI, and that sort of leads into our MSc course, which Paul's going to talk a little bit about. But just give you an idea how the platform works. A pangolin walked in front of a camera in Uganda, and in under 20 seconds, the image was sent to the UK, processed, and the alert sent out to the rangers. So we're using that speediness of artificial intelligence to make a real difference and giving the conservationists a leading edge in sort of biodiversity monitoring.
That's incredible. Paul, if you're able to tell us a bit more about the master's course.
Yeah, so we run a master's course in artificial intelligence that mainly focuses on machine learning, some traditional, but mainly deep learning applications. We tend to teach a lot of things that we do in our own research. So the course was, I think it's its fourth year running now. And we do things like computer vision, large language models, but not just the AI itself, but how do you actually integrate these technologies and make them public facing? So how do you host them on web front ends so people can interact and access those deep learning models like you can do with conservation AI. And so, yeah, that's been really, really useful. We work with NVIDIA and a number of different partners who have guided us on in terms of what industry expects to see from students who are leaving university. The cutting edge technologies that we're teaching are becoming more and more important in industry, and organizations are really looking to try to capitalize on things like computer vision and large language models, things like ChatGPT. So yeah, the course has been a massive success, and that's been growing year on year.
Amazing. So what sort of opportunities does the course offer to the students that take it?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, it's an interesting course because it's applied. So both myself and Carl previously came from industry, so we worked as software engineers in industry. So we've got a very good handle on what industry is actually looking for. So there's a massive mathematical element to machine learning, but actually what organizations want is they want you to basically implement this technology and start to solve real world problems. How do they get that competitive edge? How do they capitalize on AI to unblock some of the bottlenecks that they have in industry? And this really gives that technical capability. They can literally build end-to-end solutions, from storing data in databases right up to hosting those machine learning models on the web, which is actually quite a rare thing. When you start to talk to industry and many organizations, they still struggle to understand how do you actually make AI accessible, how do you use that to within the work process they have, which is a little bit challenging, but our students definitely come up with those skills.
Have you had any sort of real-time feedback from your students that have already completed the course?
Yeah, so the feedback from the course students have been absolutely amazing. A lot of our students have actually gone out and got some really high-profile jobs, especially in some of the blue-chip companies like IBM and Microsoft. With great comments back from the students saying everything you taught on the course was covered in the interview assessment centres. That was really good validation about what we're teaching on the course. And as Paul said, we work a lot with companies like NVIDIA. So myself and Paul are both DLI instructors, so Deep Learning Institute instructors for NVIDIA, and we're also university ambassadors. So we're constantly working with companies like NVIDIA, which most of you will know is the new $1 trillion company on the block who sort of facilitates that AI, embedding it into our daily lives. They really are at the forefront, and by working with them, we can create course material, make sure it's applicable for our students. So when they go out to industry, they pass the assessment centres, and there's no shell shock, no job shock when they go out there. They're familiar with all the libraries and all the SDKs.
I've got a note here that says real-world experience and learning isn't restricted to the classroom, and I understand you've got a really good example of that.
Is this the line example? Everyone loves the line example. So yeah, so basically what we tend to do with our students is that we try to give them projects, particularly the final degree project. We try to link that with partners that we work with, so people like Chester Zoo or with Knowsley Safari. So that particular one, when we worked with Knowsley Safari a few years ago, they were the first kind of animal organisation that we worked with when we were training our models to recognise animals in images. We were there and we were talking to the guy who runs the lion paddock, and he was saying that they actually have words, which kind of blew my mind that a little bit. It turns out they have about 9 different words that mean different things. So we basically had a student who trained an algorithm, a deep learning algorithm, to recognize or at least translate those sounds that the lions made, to translate them into English corresponding words. Through the help of the keeper, they allowed us to make that translation, that transition. And it sounds like a little bit gimmicky there, but actually has a huge amounts of utility there. So you can imagine putting these sensors into forests or to jungles or to very remote areas where you can start to listen and try to understand what is the health of those environments and what are the animals saying. Are they in danger? Are they anxious about something? There's something changed in that environment, which is happening globally around the world for a number of different reasons. So being able to do that translation is really, really useful. So, for example, you look at the fires that are happening globally now, these wildfires. So if that was happening, then the animals would behave differently. The sounds of that environment would be different. So you imagine if you could detect those sounds much earlier on, and you could perhaps localize where those fires perhaps are, you may be able to put interventions in much quicker, which would save land, which would save animal and wildlife lives, and so on. So I think the longer term impact of being trying to translate what animals are saying, to listen to them, and to use that in a positive way has got huge potential.
Yeah, I've got another note here that says there's such an array of areas in life that can benefit from AI. What other examples do you have?
Yeah, so we work with a lot of different disciplines, and obviously AI is one of the most disruptive technologies right across the board of disciplines. So we've even done things like for the Metropolitan Police and things like crime detection. So we last year processed over 100 million images for the Metropolitan Police using the same technology stack that we use for conservation AI, and that actually led to a conviction of a murderer who got 35 years in prison. So again, the Met Police was swamped with all this CCTV data, and we were able to use that speediness of artificial intelligence to analyze all that data and structure all that data, and that led to a successful conviction of a murderer. So that's just one side of things. Obviously, you've got things like driverless cars coming down the road now, forgive the pun, where we're using computer vision systems and sensor systems to do that. Also in healthcare, obviously doing automatic diagnosis of CT scans, X-rays, MRI scans, especially in healthcare more than anywhere, those seconds do really matter when you're treating a critical patient. So AI is pretty much like a Swiss Army knife of technology. There's not a single domain that you can't deploy it to. Once you understand the core principles and the technologies that support it, you can go into drug discovery and any number of different fields, and that's what makes our students very employable, right? And also what makes the discipline very interesting. No 2 days are ever the same. You're always working on a different domain, a different challenge, and it keeps it very fresh. And I think that's what we really love about artificial intelligence, and instilling that into our students is a key cornerstone of what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, what's the most exciting part about working with AI for you guys?
Oh God, there's so much. I mean, I've been working in AI for 30 years now. So I did my degree in 1994. So I'm showing my age here now. And I've just loved the discipline. And I think probably over the last 10 years or so, it's been really interesting. It's just developed so quickly. So what we're seeing now, it really is transformational. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. Not only have we got huge amounts of data from the internet now, but we've got this massive compute from GPUs, which are provided by NVIDIA. And of course, we've got these huge neural networks. So these are the deep learning neural networks that we work with. So these are things that mimic how the brain works, but they're very, very big, the large constructs. So I think the convergence of these three different things has really led to the big discoveries that we're starting to see, and you've seen things like with AlphaGo and AlphaFold, and there's driverless cars now, which is pretty much it in terms of technical capabilities solved. It's more the legislative things to come over, who's responsive if the car crashes, and how do you insure it, and all these most soft kind of fringe issues. But like Carl said, doing it into healthcare, it's just every day we seem to be seeing lots of new advances. The large language models is perhaps the most recent we've seen. And if you start to play around with ChatGPT, particularly for service, and OpenAI now just about to release one for vision. So there's a huge area which I find really fascinating, is where we start to interconnect these modalities. So you can not only see, hear, touch, smell, but you can make sense of that, and you can actually start to you can fuse these different modalities together and start to, I think you start to create really sophisticated applications for that. So for example, where we see this in conservation AI is that you can see we've got the videos, we do the object detection, the images, and we can detect what the animals are. But now you can imagine if you can start to automatically report that. So you've got this linkage with computer vision with large language models. So whatever these kind of artificial eyes see, they start to document that in real time. And that's really great then for things like environmental monitoring, for biodiversity assessments, where we can, see and respond to things much quicker.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a diversity, I think, is the most interesting thing with artificial intelligence. Being able to apply it to absolutely anything is the exciting parts of it. I mean, I get a real kick out of being able to sort of accelerate, things we weren't able to do before, or, facilitate new things we weren't able to do before. And that, for me, gives me the most excitement. I think, as Paul said, there's this multimodality. So, combine all these different models together to give you higher levels of intelligence, and support humans and people and what they do in their everyday lives. There's this great thing about artificial intelligence, taking over people's jobs. Well, it's not really there for that. It's more of a co-pilot. It's more of an assistant to help you do much more with your time more efficiently. But I think some of the greatest stuff is going to come in the next sort of 2 years, and it's definitely a discipline you want to try and learn, even if you don't understand the technical aspects of it. Just being able to understand the technology and use it in a safe and ethical way is something that we're all going to have to get used to. It's something that we're going to, have to live with over the next coming years. And I think it'll be an amazing journey. There's so much excitement on the horizon.
I was going to say, what does the future look like? Obviously, there's the sort of scary sci-fi mentality of, oh no, robots will take over. But I mean, blue sky, what can you envision AI being used for in the future?
I mean, we don't 100% know. We don't 100% know how this technology is going to mature over time. But there's all these scary stories about robots, and we're going to be surrounded by these. And I think that'll be absolutely true. I think in a few years you will see robots like Boston Dynamics, which is directly fitted with things like large language models and ChatGPT and advanced computer vision. I think they will walk alongside us doing different functions and so on. But I think it's like Carter. I think over the next few years, it's going to be more like a co-pilot. So it's something that sits next to you. It's something it's supporting you. It's it's accelerating the way you do things. So and I do agree. There is some unrest at the moment, and there will likely be changes in jobs. We'll have to do things differently. Even as academics, we're having to do things differently. ChatGPT came on the scene in the end of 2022, and so what's that? What do we do about assessments? And all these questions are still very much active and alive. But I just think once this starts to settle down, and I think once this technology becomes embedded into the fabric of what everything that we do, I think we'll start to definitely have this as an assistant. I don't think it will replace us, like Carl said. I think it will just allow us to do things in a different way, allow us to accelerate those processes much quicker. And who knows what it's actually going to uncover. So what kind of things are we going to do in the next 5-10 years? What kind of new jobs will we have available? We've seen that with Amazon, the internet, that completely transformed and changed the way we do things. And I think that's going to be the same with artificial intelligence moving forward now. And I think it's fantastic on the master's course and the students that we have. It's great to see the excitement and in the faces when they start to break this technology down, to understand how it works. And that really, what we found at least, is it opens up ideas. So it's, we've seen people be a lot more creative. They come up with some fantastic ideas on how this technology can be used. And to cover a whole wide variety of problems. We had one recently where they were looking at food wastage, about applying artificial intelligence to try to optimize how food is sold and consumed and used. I think these kind of stories, these kind of scenarios, that they'll just become much more prevalent. And the kids are used to this. So the students now and the younger generation, they're born into this technology. This Generation Z, they want to come into university now. Have never known life without technology, and they're the ones that are quite comfortable and perhaps less scared about the technology. But this newer generation are definitely the one that's going to give rise to new processes, new things, new ideas, and new ways of doing things. But it'll be a co-pilot for a large number of years. I think it's something that's going to sit next to us and it's going to help us rather than overtake the things that we do.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, no, thank you. That was brilliant. Thank you.
Emily.
Thanks again to Carl and Paul for their time. If you want to find out more about the course or the project, you can click the links below. Make sure to give us a follow wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to get in touch, you can email us at podcast@prospects.ac.uk or find us on Instagram and TikTok. All the links are in the description. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.